It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith, joined, of course, by Alan Saunders. And we got a special guest on today's episode. We always open up when we have a guest on, asking them how they feel about the intro, the music, the logo, and everything like that. It's very interesting today because we literally have a part of the intro, the graphics, the entire show, bringing it all together as the guest. Dylan Winters joining us. Dylan, how we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well, man. All right, so you developed the logo, but how do you feel about the music accompanying it, just the entire presentation?
Yeah, it rocks. It rocks. It's really cool to see it roll in, you know? So, I mean, it's spot on.
All right, still batting 1,000. Alan, we can't miss.
Everybody likes it. Everybody talks about it. We do have some merch possibly coming with the logo. We're working on it. Just had Dylan give me a version of the logo that we can make some merch out of. So we're hoping for that. But we have a good brand. We always say the intro, it's all downhill from there, really. The intro is the most professional part of the entire podcast.
It's a tough standard to live up to, though. Like it honestly says more about, I think, the logo than it does us, the intro as a whole, than it does us. It's that good that it's hard to live up to it the rest of the show. So yeah, I agree, it is downhill, but I don't think it's necessarily an indictment of the podcast being bad. Anyways, I actually have a question for you, Alan, first and foremost, as it relates to Dylan and stuff like that. How did you find Dylan to kind of bring him in on this project? Like, what was it about Dylan's work that you saw or whatever that made you want to get him involved?
Dylan and I's paths crossed when he was doing some work for Pitt, and just always thought he was really good, and kind of knew that he had started his own thing. Had been following him on social media, and when I was looking for someone to design a logo, I was like, that's 100% who I want to do it. I had like kind of some ideas in mind, but it was, mostly that's his creative genius there. I mean, it was a very rough sketch from me to him, but I knew he'd do a great job. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the really cool things about this podcast in general is I feel like all of it's been put together through like just random connections I've made over the years. Obviously kind of developed a friendship with you via social media. The music was made by the bandmate of one of my coworkers, and, crossing paths with Dylan. It's just a lot of our guests are people that I've kind of gotten to know over the years on social media or from doing my job. So it's kind of like the product of a decade of cool networking is what you get here. But yeah, that's how Dylan definitely first came across my radar was when he was doing some work with Pitt.
I feel like it was so quick. Like after you had asked me to do the podcast and stuff like that, I remember you just sent me like 6 or 7 samples, and I still have like all the variations of the logo and stuff on there with like the different background colors and stuff like that. I still have them all on my phone, but like, yeah, fell in love immediately. And then like when we're asking for people to send us their vehicles all the time, like this is the standard that I'm trying to get them to live up to, is this van. Like I want to see this exact van basically one day sent in from one of the audience members. But Dylan, how did you like get into this line of work to begin with? I'm always curious, like anybody that kind of comes from like anything that is creative or artistic, like how you even found out that you were good at this, where that passion developed from, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One quick note on the whole vehicle aspect. I live in Uniontown, PA, and I think somewhere in the vicinity, I swear there is a van that looks just like this. And like I'll have to take a drive one day, and I think it's just parked outside. I'll have to go take a look one day and see if it's still there.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean, I've always loved doing art since I was little. So I would make like stadiums out of cardboard and put the team's logos on them, stuff like that. Do all that good stuff when I was like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. And then in high school, I mean, I've always enjoyed art class, but then my mom kind of convinced me to go to tech school. So I went to Beatty Tech, kind of by like McKnight Road down that way. But but yeah, I went there for my 11th and 12th grade year, and that's where I kind of learned more about like the different paths that you can take. The program I took was called advertising design. So I took that, we started to learn more about the computer and how you create on on an iMac, stuff like that. So definitely a lot of good like capabilities there that they had that you could really learn and get hands on that you might not have been able to just at your primary school. So I'd spend half the day there learning about that and then go back to my high school. And but yeah, I mean that's where I really learned like what graphic design was and really fell in love with it. And from there went to California University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's in graphic design. And from there, just been kind of running it ever since.
I feel like, doing your own thing. Is that immediately upon graduating, you jumped into doing your own thing, like owning your own business, or were you under somebody else before? Because I feel like that can be quite scary, in my opinion. Like that's quite a leap to, start your own business and say, this is going to be like my source of income. Like, I think that's quite a leap to take. So just curious about that aspect of it.
Yeah, no. So it's just something that I've always like kind of dabbled in. It's hard to take that full time, like you said. But I mean, there's it all depends on your situation, whatnot, if you're able to do it. So like I've had a few jobs here and there, like Alan mentioned, I worked at Pitt. So I worked with them for about a year as their assistant director of graphic design, where we built the program because they outsourced everything at that before then. So me and the director, we kind of took it from the ground up and really started to develop like Pitt's like visual standard, from an athletic standpoint. And that was a year before that whole rollout came out with like going back to the colors, the new Panther head that Nike did, all that. So like I was kind of like right before then is like when me and Cody, the director, came in and really got a good foundation built for Pitt Athletics. And then yeah, I mean I've always done my own thing. I mean I've always been doing logos. That's what I specialize in. Is logo design, brand identity, stuff like that. Creating something that represents something is like a broad but really kind of cool explanation, especially in the sports world because logos and marks have such a nostalgic tie to sport, to fans.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you is obviously you can do graphic design and you do. I've seen, your logos for all kinds of different companies and projects and things like that. But why sports? Why was that the thing that you wanted to put so much of your focus into?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it just goes from growing up. I played sports, but I also was interested in art. So that's where it just kind of like combining those two passions really kind of just hits the nail on the head for me. Where like, I've been fortunate enough to work with many different sports brands, collegiate, a few professional, to work on some projects here and there, and then like it's just kind of like it feels like natural, it just feels like that's where I should be, or like combining that again with logo design and whatnot. It's like the perfect little triangle there.
Were you the kid that was like doodling the Calgary Flames logo on the back of in your notebook when you were in third grade or whatever? Was that like a thing, like the logo? Was that maybe a part of sports that connected with you because of your love of art?
Yeah, definitely all the logos and stuff like that. I mean, I remember making like art projects in school of that, like collage of like all the logos and stuff and whatnot, and that was like my art project, like in 11th grade or something,
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Obviously, we know you're very proud of the Steelers Afternoon Drive logo. But lots of your logos are out there in the world for people to see that are fans of this podcast that they may not know. What are some of the ones you're the most proud of, or you think are the most notable that you've done that you still see around all the time in sports?
Oh yeah. All right. So I'd say probably top of the list would be the Pitt soccer crest. Just because of like one thing with design is like we spend so much time on screen and whatnot, but whenever something becomes tangible and it's physical, like out in the physical world, and it's just everywhere, I don't think there's like any greater feeling for a designer than when that happens because it's on the pitch, it's on their kits, right on their chest, it's everywhere, and like the men's and women's team there, they really rallied around it, and I mean it's a part of the Pitt visual brand now. Like it's you I mean I've seen stickers on cars, I see it everywhere, so that's definitely at the top of the list. Right under a project that I got to do last year was the Tri-State Cool Cats. So that was like kind of in collaboration with working with Marshall University out of Huntington, West Virginia. So they have a like a summer league team down there in the Appalachian League. Um, and I was able to work with like the AD and all them general manager to work on even the naming of the team, and from there I took it and ran with it and got the primary cat logo, a TS letter mark for the caps, script word marks, the whole gambit there. So that was a really, really fun project to take under.
You did some work on the Marshall. I don't know what it's a buffalo. I don't know what it has a name, but like you kind of updated an old school version of that logo. What was that like?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. So there's a lot going on around collegiate athletics because there's been so many awesome like retro marks, retro mascot logos, and updating those for proper applications is ideal. So if it's too illustrative, it's going to be kind of tough to replicate in some aspects. And so that was the whole idea there, was to kind of update it. And along with updating that, making sure that it fits within their modern day brand, and their whole visual style. And, that also consisted of, implementing some things from their, how Pitt has their panther head, their front-facing panther head. So Marshall has their front-facing bison head, and taking some kind of aspects from that, like the horns, the horn shape, but like implementing that into the mascot logo and whatnot. And they call it Sailor Marco because they all had like the sailor hats on from the one illustrator back in the day and whatnot. But yeah, so it was a really fun project to do. A little bit more illustrative, yeah, but kind of like how the Steelers Afternoon Drive logo is. It's a little bit more illustrative of a logo. But yeah, I mean, great times. Fans loved it. I mean, I know the merch was doing well for them and everything.
I have one more before we can jump into actually talking about a team that you're a fan of here. Alan, you're outnumbered today, by the way, in terms of fandom. Like, we had 2 fans of the team on here. Typically not the case. But last thing that I want to ask, I'm a big believer in talking things into the universe. So like, this is going to be a broad question, whether it seems like it's something that's attainable or not to you right now. What's like a dream project for you?
Oh man. Oh, I gotta say, like, probably an NHL team. Just I love, like, NHL is probably my or hockey's probably my sport. I never played ice hockey, but I grew up playing deck hockey. If you're in Pittsburgh, you kind of know that, just on your feet. And but yeah, I mean, I think a professional sports team in the NHL would be a dream project to work on. And there's been so many great ones with Vegas and Seattle, where like you can really, really have fun with it, especially if they don't have anything prior. So it's just I don't know, that would definitely be a dream project right there.
Hey, Gary Bettman just recently touched
Yeah.
on the potential another expansion. So, we'll get this episode over to the NHL and the NHLPA and let them know we got somebody for hire over here if they're looking for somebody. So,
For sure.
but good stuff. Dylan, I want to get your perspective on, again, pretty broad question here, but a lot of turnover for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Just wanted your thought on that, because it's kind of crazy to see year over year recently the amount of turnover that's taken place for a franchise that for a while that was something that we didn't see happen, to the point where people would call them stagnant and stale. Now it seems like they're willing to turn over every stone under Omar Khan. What's your thought on the amount of turnover that we've seen with this roster?
Yeah, no, it almost feels like college, where there's, it's almost like there's a transfer portal.
Yeah, they hit the portal. They hit the portal hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I don't know. I think there's always that saying, the standard is the standard. I mean, you got to kind of, from year to year, you kind of got to maybe think to yourself, what does that mean, especially for this organization who's always holds themselves at such a high standard. So I think that's something you got to think about, is well, what do we have to do moving forward to really I don't know, make that next move forward. But
also, this popped in my mind as you were talking, because it just now registered the deck hockey thing and unlocked a memory. My dad played ice and deck, and we were at one of his deck hockey games, and I took out one of my sister's front teeth with a deck hockey ball.
Oh my god,
fighting over it. So
what a story! Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But anyways, real quick, Alan, it looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I just how has working in sports and kind of seeing how, in a lot of ways, the sausage is made. You talked about the transfer portal. Obviously, you're at Pitt at the very dawning of the NIL era, things like that. How has that kind of affected the way you are a sports fan? Do you still see things the same way you did before?
I don't know. Yes and no. I mean, I feel like I can separate that. I mean, I think I'm still fans of the team. Obviously, if there's a player that goes somewhere else for any situation of, more NIL money or something like that, I get it. I understand it. So I mean, I'll most likely still be a fan of them and root for them if they go somewhere else. Still want them to do well. But I mean, I'm a homer, so no matter where I would go or live, I mean, I'm always going to be rooting for Pittsburgh sports.
Was this a career that you were thinking was going to take you places, or were you? I mean, obviously your logo's black and gold. Were you always Pittsburgh, do or die, or was there a point where you were tempted to go somewhere else?
I mean, I had a few interviews with other places and whatnot, but I think, I've always loved living in Pittsburgh. I haven't really lived in Pittsburgh for about 10, 12 years, but I'm close enough where, I mean, we can go down for anything. It only takes an hour to get down to Pittsburgh, and we can still go to different events and whatnot. But I mean, I think it's just one of those things that, I just kind of bleed Pittsburgh through and through. So it's where I'm from, and it's where I was raised. So it's always going to be a part of me no matter what.
I'm I feel very similarly, Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving. Not a lot of people know this, but in 2018, the company that I worked for, my day job, had a position open in Atlanta. I would have gotten somewhere between a $12,000 to $15,000 raise, and I wasn't interested in it because I didn't want to leave here.
Yeah, no, that's
so I don't know what it would take for me to leave, but not at 12 to 15,000 was not it.
Yeah, no, it really has to hit a lot of good factors for you to make that decision. I did have an offer from Under Armour back in, I don't know, 2018, I think it was, somewhere around there. But it was just one of those things, Baltimore is a little bit more expensive. The housing would have been totally different. And we have 3 kids. At the time we had 2, and it was one of those things. Is is it really worth it? And then it would have been in the MLB kind of sector, and that kind of when UA was going to be the on-field provider for MLB. But then that fell through. So it was like, if I would have accepted that, like how would have that turned out for me? You know, like
just a whole bunch of designs with the Maryland flag. That's all you would have been left with.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think like all the chips have to really fall right in line for you to make a decision like that.
But. You've done obviously a lot of projects for like businesses, groups, organizations, stuff like that. Have you done anything for like individuals, like on a one-on-one level, created something for somebody? The reason that I ask is because I have a friend that's in graphic design, and he's drawn up a lot of my tattoos, and then I end up getting them, and he thinks it's like the coolest thing that I put it on my skin. But I just didn't know if you've done any like one-on-one projects like that.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of like individuals, businesses, and like individuals who are businesses. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open to any type of project, you know, when it comes to logos or whatnot. I guess one thing you could think of is like maybe like an athlete logo is like a personal brand. I've done a few of those through this one company before, but trying to think of a few that I did, but it would have been like Isaiah Wong. He played for Miami basketball. He went to Indiana Pacers for a little bit, like I think in and out of their system. But yeah, that's something I've done before, where, you know, I'm working with an individual, and I kind of like that, you know, like it's a little bit more personal. Even when I'm working with businesses, it's nice to have one contact person, and we can have a good conversation and get it like on a more personal level. Just kind of helps the work relationship not be so like just work, like, okay, let's just do this and get it done. You know, I like being able to build that relationship with anybody. So
Sure, absolutely. Dylan, I got another football question here for you. Again, related to some news last week, bringing it into the conversation this week. We've already touched on this quite a bit, but wanted to get your opinion. What is your thought, or I guess I should say confidence level, in the job of general manager Omar Khan? Do you feel like he just got an extension, the right guy to be leading the ship and to be under charge the next time that they throw a dart at that QB position?
I think he probably deserves the right to take that shot. Yeah, I do. I mean, I always hear about how, you know, he's like the numbers guy and whatnot and everything, but like I don't know. I mean, in a way, I mean, he's been in that organization for so long, so it's like I think it's one of those things where he deserves that shot, especially in the position that we have been in, like in and out with that position. So I would say that, yeah, like let's see how this year rolls out. Let's see what we can do next year, what routes we can take, because I mean, especially like with these trades this year, I think like they're willing to, again, like when you talk about like reiterating what the standard is, like, okay, well, you know, when was the last time we really made those types of trades? So seeing how, you know, modern day Steelers, I guess you could say, like how we can rework that next year. So.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to thread this needle, which is very tough to do, remaining competitive while also understanding that they're not there yet, not giving up future assets, and going through like a retool on the fly. And again, like we've talked about this before, if they're successful in doing so, like nobody really has ever done it before, but the Steelers potentially could be if they hit on that quarterback pick in 26, because, you know, for all the obviously complaints about the lack of postseason success, they're always in the conversation. They're always competitive, which most teams you see bottom out before they get that quarterback, and that has not happened here. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. Alan, you got something else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have anything about the current team, maybe.
Okay.
But I'll say, like, is there a player that either like now or maybe a past player that like you would have liked to do a design for?
Ooh.
Like, just because of whether it's their aesthetic or something they do, or maybe you just really liked them, like who would be someone that you'd think would be fun to build a logo for or something like that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'll hit on one that I had talks with was James Conner back in the day. We had I had made something whenever he was at Pitt, and he saw it and was like, "Oh, this is great! Like, I really like it. Could we get some shirts made up?" So we did that, and then that was just kind of without me speaking with him, going through a project brief, everything. So, but we had talks on and off about doing like a new one, like one that we would kind of work on together. Never came to fruition, but it was like like some of the ideas I had were like spot on for him, I think. And something like it, a logo for a player just always isn't right. They may not want to go like be remembered by a logo mark or whatever, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really
where my mind went to was a Troy Polamalu Tasmanian Devil type logo.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some out there. I'm sure there's some.
Sure, but I'm curious as to what you would have done with something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, because somebody with so much character, like in the way they play, like that can kind of lend itself to how you can portray that in a logo. So,
yeah, I think like when you think about guys that have good like imagery, like TJ Watt doing his big kick, or Mike Tomlin with like the hat down, sunglasses, beard, and it's like you don't even actually need to see the person to kind of know what that image is evocative of, and I think that those kind of people would be like really fun to work with.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, like TJ Watt, like the whole electricity aspect of it, of like wattage.
Oh, see, I didn't even go there, but absolutely, that's brilliant.
That's some great imagery to play with. I mean, there's so much good like references that you could pull in.
If somebody has a signature thing, like Alex Highsmith does like the Thanos thing, the Infinity Stones when he gets a sack. I don't know if there's something there with that, but anybody that has like a signature thing, that's probably where you got to try to pull from. So Dylan, you've been a Steelers fan. Like, is that just a family lineage thing that's been through your whole family?
Yeah. Again, any Pittsburgh sports, like I think my pap had like Penguin season tickets. I think he got rid of them like I think back in '92. So like I was born in '92. So wow. Yeah. But yeah, I'm like my uncle worked at PNC Park forever for like maintenance, and he's retired now. So we would be able to go to games every now and then. My dad would take me to training camp, stuff like that. My whole room back in like high school, like middle school, high school, like I would cut out clippings from the newspaper. I had like a whole collage of just like Steelers stuff all up on my wall. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved Pittsburgh sports, no matter who it is, really. So,
well, right, I got a big design question here. Then,
okay,
are you team block numbers or italic numbers for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Just real quick answer: block. It just fits. It's so good. Sometimes things in the past wouldn't work well now, but I think that's one of the things that just would, with the whole motif of tough like steel town, like those numbers are tough. It just speaks to, I think, the city and the past and everything. Like if they would bring those back, I would have no problem with it. Full time.
My idea is for them to when December, when Pitt is done, just paint the end zones gold and wear nothing but their block uniforms at home the rest of the season. I think that would be really fun. Like a special, like you could bring it back. It'd be part of the regular uniform, but it would have like some special heightened significance. I think that could be pretty cool too.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I love the painted end zones. Like I say, I wish I could do that like full time. I know the whole deal with Pitt and whatnot, but yeah, those painted end zones are just beautiful.
I want away block jerseys as
well.
Yeah,
like,
I want that back. That's where I'm at with it. But the last thing that I wanted to ask, and you mentioned going to training camp, so maybe it's a training camp experience as opposed to like a game or something like that, or even watching on TV. But if someone asked you like to just give one Steelers memory, what's the first one that comes to mind? What's your favorite one?
Probably like Steelers Super Bowl watch party when I was in high school when for Santonio Holmes making that catch. Like I remember that. Like I remember being there at my friend's house and like just going crazy because it was just like oh my gosh, did he catch it? Did he catch it? Like it's like yeah, yeah, he definitely caught it. Like it was like I don't know, that was like just so hype and like at that age, you're so into it. Like I was like, not to say I'm not into sports now or like watching it, but like at that time you're in high school, like there's like that's like yeah, it's like prime, like all right, like we're watching it every Sunday, and it was just I remember that like it was
yeah, I almost feel like not to say that I'm still a massive fan of sports, but there's a part of me that like thinks back to how big of a fan that I was then, and I'm like, man, 17-year-old me would think 30-year-old me is like old man yells at cloud with the way that I am now. Like, yeah. But no, actually, during that same Super Bowl that you're talking about, we were over my parents' friend's house, and my dad's friend had maybe the biggest crash out, as the kids would say now, that I've seen when Larry Fitzgerald scored the touchdown. Turned surround sound off, turned the TV off, went upstairs. He's like, I'm not finishing watching this game. Nobody is. We're like, what are you doing? Like, we got Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback here. We could do this in under 2 minutes. Turned it back on and obviously watched the game-winning drive. But I was like, man, this guy just missed one of the most iconic drives in football history because
oh my gosh, yeah, he'll never be able to like experience that in real time ever again.
He did not see it happen live.
That's wild.
Damn. Alan, anything else?
I think that's it, man.
There we go. Good stuff. Appreciate you joining us, Dylan. As we always wrap up on here, tell the people where they could find you, get your work, see the designs you're pulling up, maybe hire you in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So on all social media, from like Instagram to Twitter to Threads, it's at Dylan Winters Co. And you can always go to my website, dylanwinters.com, and see some of my latest work. And I'm always open to building relationships and just saying hi, saying hello if anybody ever wants to reach out.
There we go. Good stuff. Alan?
Saunders _ PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus like Terry Hubbard did. We got to get we got to get that one in the banner there.
Get
Terry
these old
Hubbard
names out of there.
Yeah, Terry Hubbard, the most recent sign up yesterday, actually, last night. And anyone can like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. It really helps us grow to a bigger audience, which we're always trying to do. And we have 15,984. Dylan, we play a game with the last two numbers of our subscriber count. Try to name an old Steelers player with 84 as their number. You got one kicking around in your head?
Yeah, Antonio Brown. That was an easy one. That's something. Oh my gosh, that's something. I worked at a lumberyard once, and to pass the time, that's one of the games we would play. Is like we would say, pick a number, and like any team, pick a number. A lot of 2000s players we go through, but yeah, that was always a fun game, and you have to give hints if you couldn't get it and whatnot. But
yeah, it's 100% given the same vibes as Noah Hiles, who has gotten way too many shout outs recently on this podcast. We'll put out there, like, if they're in a rain delay, hey, let's start naming random outfielders of the 2000s on Twitter. And it's like the same thing that like I'll do when I'm with like my group of friends just sitting around a fire, just start naming random athletes. I'm gonna go with Jeremy Tooman.
That was the one I was gonna pick. Now I gotta come up with another one. There's a bunch of Mike Mularkey is the one from my era that comes to mind. There's a bunch of tight ends in there that were not very good. But also Randy Grossman from the 70s is also in there.
Who was the preseason receiver just like a couple years ago, that Rico something that everybody loved, that was wearing 84? So like post AB.
Rico Bussey.
Yes, Rico Bussey
from Hawaii.
And that and that was a thing. for a while there. He was the preseason wide receiver that we always have one of every single year. But anyways, we're getting way off topic as typically happens on here. We got to get out of here. As Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks again to Dylan Winters for joining the podcast, and thanks to all of you for jumping in, taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.